is all this money going and why are we still borrowing? And it's a very important question, particularly foreign loans. Government can exceed revenue target and still have to borrow. There is the need for some clarification in terms of how our debt numbers are reported. NRS exceeding revenue, custom service exceeding revenue. Where is all this money going and why are we still borrowing? And it's a very important question. Important because we have a lot of needs as a country. When we take our budget, and let's say it's 10 naira, that is the amount we want to spend, including personnel costs, running government, paying debt service, and building infrastructure. It's 10 naira. We look at all our numbers and we say we can generate 6 naira. 6 naira is our revenue target. Our expenditure is 10. If we end up generating revenue of 7 naira, we will say we have exceeded our revenue target. It's not a lie. But we still need 3 naira to balance the budget because we need to spend 10. So this is the reason why both can coexist. Government can exceed revenue target and still have to borrow. And in terms of where the money is going, this is one of the analyses we are working on in the Ministry of Finance. Very soon we're going to be able to release it, putting numbers to it. But just to give a couple of examples, particularly foreign loans, and I'll take that with your permission together with the last question from distinguished senator, also on debt. I think there is the need for some clarification in terms of how our debt numbers are reported. So first, for external loans, we always need the approval of the National Assembly. So what tends to happen is, when we get the approval of the National Assembly, the media would rightly report it. And many people take that as money borrowed. When we now borrow the money, they report it again. So, in fact, I think it was last year when the National Assembly approved about $20 billion, which was based on MTEF. So people add up big numbers as the money we have borrowed. And that is misleading in terms of the analysis. We're currently finalizing this breakdown in the Ministry of Finance. We'll make it available to the public. It will show how much the National Assembly approved and how much of that we have borrowed and how it has been spent. In addition to that...
But you have not exceeded what National Assembly has approved?
No, we haven't.
Okay.
In fact, we've not even taken half of what the National Assembly has approved.
Okay.
And we're also guided by the Fiscal Responsibility Act that only allows the government to borrow for capital expenditure and human development. So we are mindful of that. The other important issue is that, and the distinguished senator, we meet today at a profound moment of inflection. Behind us lies a period of incredibly difficult but necessary choices. And before us lies a question of equal consequence. Do we have the collective courage to translate macroeconomic stability into durable, inclusive prosperity? Or will we allow this window of opportunity to close? The theme of this year's forum, From Stability to Shared Prosperity, perfectly captures Nigeria's current economic realities. A couple of years ago, our national conversation was dominated by one fundamental question, and that is, will our reforms restore stability? And the answer, as we know it now, is yes. But today, a different, more vital question confronts us. And that is, how do we translate that hard-won stability into prosperity that businesses can invest in, workers can earn from, and families can feel in a tangible way. That is the conversation we need to have today. Every successful economic transformation follows a clear three-phase journey. Number one, stabilization. That is correcting structural distortions, restoring confidence, and rebuilding fiscal credibility. Number two, growth. Mobilizing investment, increasing productivity, and creating sustainable jobs. And three, shared prosperity. Ensuring that growth improves living standards, expands opportunity, and reduces poverty. When this administration assumed office, Nigeria faced a profound structural crisis. We inherited a fragmented foreign exchange market, an unsustainable fuel subsidy that drained our treasury, a weak fiscal position, and a tax system that imposed heavy compliance costs on businesses. We're taxing poverty, taxing capital, and taxing trust, while generating very little revenue. We had a choice. We could postpone the difficult decisions and allow the economy to slowly drift toward collapse, or we could confront them. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, chose reform over postponement. He chose this path not because it was politically convenient, but because it was economically expedient. We unified the exchange rate, initiated crucial fiscal reforms, began rebuilding our external reserves, and removed many of the heavy distortions holding back our productive sectors. The results are emerging, but stability is only the foundation. Today, encouraging evidence of these bold decisions is emerging. Despite heightened geopolitical uncertainty and a fragile global economy, Nigeria recorded a double-digit GDP growth rate in USD terms in 2025. And we are on track to achieve a double-digit growth rate in USD terms also in 2026. Our inflation rate is back on a downward trajectory after the events that happened in Iran. The foreign exchange market is functioning more efficiently, and our external reserves are rebuilding. International rating agencies have acknowledged our progress, and investment interest has returned and steadily growing. But we are mindful that macroeconomic stability is not our final destination. It is the foundation. A stable economy can still be a stagnant one if we become complacent or return to business as usual. A stabilized currency can still mean low purchasing power if our national productivity is suboptimal. Lower inflation can still coexist with high unemployment. We recognize this. No nation has ever achieved greatness simply by keeping its macro indicators stable. Countries become prosperous when stability attracts investments. Investment drives productivity. Productivity creates jobs. Jobs raise incomes. And incomes translate into better living standards. That is the transition we must accelerate now. So I'll speak to you about the three pillars of our economic transition. To translate stability into shared prosperity, we are driving three interconnected structural shifts across our economy. The first one, productivity. For too long, Nigeria's economy has been oriented towards distributing resource rents rather than creating new value. We import what we should produce, and we consume what we should export. We must build an economy that manufactures, processes, and competes globally. This is why our industrial policy focus spanning agro-processing, technology, energy, and light manufacturing is foundational. We are shifting Nigeria from an economy of extraction to an economy of value addition. Number two is revenue optimization. Nigeria's fiscal model has been historically constrained. We cannot fund modern infrastructure, quality healthcare, or world-class education system on a historical revenue base. Our revenue mobilization agenda is not about raising tax rates to punish success. No. It's about widening the tax nets, simplifying compliance, and leveraging technology. Our landmark tax reforms are designed to eliminate multiple taxation and drastically reduce compliance costs. This is not merely tax reform. It is a fiscal reset necessary for shared prosperity. Number three is inclusion. Prosperity is meaningless if it is not shared. An economy where millions of young people, women, and persons with disabilities are excluded from productive participation in the economy is operating far below its potential. We are deliberately investing in human capital, vocational training, and skills development. We are supporting small and medium-sized enterprises, not as an act of charity, because it is not, but because they are the true engines of job creation and grassroots innovation. And thank you to my brother from KPMG, Mr. Tola Adeyemi, on the metrics and the scorecard for measuring shared prosperity. Incidentally, we were discussing this in my office a couple of days ago, and we came up with a framework. I'll share my framework with you as well. And the framework is, we want to keep it simple. We will measure shared prosperity based on reduction in the number of people living in multidimensional poverty, number one, the increase in real income per capita, and reduction in inequality. We think the combined impact of those three measures will tell us whether our growth is inclusive, and whether our prosperity is shared. You would see very soon from the Ministry of Finance, we're going to be measuring the important indicators of the progress we are making as a nation and report that to the Nigerian people, because we owe a duty to be accountable to the Nigerian people. For growth to happen, you need investment, both domestic and foreign, from small, medium, and large businesses. So let me tell you about capital. Allow me to share a fundamental truth about the modern global economy. Every single morning, trillions of US dollars flow through international financial markets. Trillions. That capital has no passport. It has no tribe and no political affiliation. It does not respond to emotional appeals or patriotic rhetoric. It responds to stable policy, strong institutions, and diligent execution of policies. Therefore, our job in government is to make Nigeria one of the most attractive, predictable, and legally secure destinations for long-term private capital globally. To the local and international investors and development partners here today, Nigeria is truly open for business. We're committing to regulatory predictability, institutional integrity, and the rule of law. And there's a need for unified fronts. I think the speakers who have spoken before me today mentioned that in clear terms. For us, we see coordination as the lever that helps us to connect the dots so that our combined efforts make more impact. So, the most obvious is fiscal and monetary coordination. But for us, we also want to coordinate across the federal government, subnational, with the private sector, and with the international community. I want to take a moment to acknowledge the governor of the central bank, who I understand will be here later today, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso and his team. We've had very productive engagements in my new role, and we are both excited and optimistic about the possibilities ahead of us. A critical pillar of our strategy, monetary and fiscal policy, must work in harmony. The fiscal reforms we are driving, such as strengthening expenditure controls, broadening the non-oil revenue base, and managing debt sustainably, create the stable environment the monetary authorities need to maintain price stability and support the naira. Conversely, a stable, predictable monetary environment allows us to plan our fiscal policies with confidence. Our aim is to avoid policy surprises, no sudden reversals, and no administrative friction. We are aligned, coordinated, and committed to strategic clarity. I know many Nigerians, including some very accomplished economists, do not believe that we would achieve a $1 trillion economy by 2030. But we believe it's possible, it is feasible, and it is realistic. And we are not saying it just because it's nice to say it. We're putting pen to paper and we're taking actions. We have identified the growth sectors, We have identified the new economies. We have identified what actions we need to take, by who, by when, and what incremental value will be created. For example, just the credit economy, making that work for us will create an incremental more than 100 billion US dollars. Formalization. By the way, with the new tax reforms, one of the things we did intentionally was how do we encourage formalization? Guess what? The results are not only impressive, they're much better than anything we had anticipated. The Corporate Affairs Commission said to us a couple of months ago that whatever we did, they don't know. But what they know is that they had an average of 10,000 informal businesses applying to register with the CAC every single day. 10,000. Now, if we leverage on that and help those businesses, because now they've been legally exempted from taxes, why run away? If we help them build skills, access affordable capital, management skills, opportunities, and they grow, not only is it that they will stimulate growth and shared prosperity, we will better capture the value they add to the economy. So, we had a look at the economy and we identified some sectoral engines for growth. While we stabilize the macro environment, we are prioritizing key sectors where Nigeria possesses distinct, undeniable competitive advantage, including 1, technology and digital services, including broadband expansion, data protection, clear fintech regulations, and AI integration. Our goal is to scale Africa's largest tech ecosystem, that is Nigeria, to export digital services globally. By the way, Africa has 9 tech unicorns, and 5 of them are in Nigeria. So if you are in doubt as to whether this is the largest ecosystem for fintech in Africa, you have the data there. This is despite the depreciation of the naira over the past couple of years. Number 2 is agro-processing. By shifting from exporting raw materials to high-value local processing and storage, our goal is to ensure national food security and turn agriculture into a high-yield export sector. Number 3, energy transition. From off-grid solar solution to gas infrastructure expansion and investment to achieve grid transmission stability. Our goal is to power the economy into significance and provide our industrial zones with reliable and affordable energy. Number 4 is manufacturing. Supporting industrial clusters, upgrading our ports, facilities, and you would have seen a lot of activities around that, and domesticating supply chains. Our goal is to position Nigeria as a manufacturing hub, first for the West African region, and as a leading jurisdiction within the African continent. Number 5, financial services. Deepening our capital markets and improving credit access for small and medium businesses, as well as large organizations. Our goal is to transform Nigeria into the premier financial gateway for the African continent. I have a message for our CEOs. We see the CEOs and the business leaders as those who are co-authoring Nigeria's next chapter. Permit me to speak directly to the business leaders in this room and those watching us virtually. We know that the journey of reform can feel painful. We understand the frustration of navigating price adjustments and shifting market dynamics. This transition is difficult, but the alternative of returning to the old unsustainable model of subsidies, artificial currency controls, and mounting debts will lead to a devastating crisis. Now is not the time to wait for perfect conditions. There are no perfect conditions in economic history. The greatest investment opportunities of our generation are emerging right now. During this period of structural transformation, we need banks that finance productive, long-term local industry rather than short-term trading. We need manufacturers who build for domestic consumption and export capacity. We need technology companies that solve real-world problems. We need family businesses with the ambition to scale into global enterprises. We are actively working to simplify our regulatory environment, protect your intellectual property, and remove the bureaucratic bottleneck that eat up your time and consume your resources. In return, we ask you to match our reforms with your investments, your innovation, and your belief in Nigeria's future. The next chapter of Nigeria's economic history will not be written by the government alone. It will be co-authored by enterprise. As I conclude, I'd like to say that the future belongs to the prepared. That is the way we see it. Prosperity is never an accident. It is always the deliberate product of sound policy, disciplined execution, productive enterprise, and sustained partnership between the public and the private sector. Many of you will be aware that a couple of days ago we set up a ministerial advisory committee. And what we are trying to do is what I describe as the 4 Ps. We're used to the 3 Ps that we call PPP, public-private partnership. And anytime you hear that, you think about roads, ports, and physical infrastructure. And that is important. But for us, we are elevating it. And we say, how about public policy, private partnership? Why don't we involve the private sector from the time we're just thinking about it? Maybe it's a waste of time and you don't need to think too far. How about the private sector being involved when we are implementing? How about they're there to monitor and provide feedback so that when we need to make corrections, we don't wait for 10 years after a lot of damage has been done? This is a new partnership we're looking for. Nigeria has completed the grueling foundational work of restoring macroeconomic stability. Our shared responsibility now is to convert that stability into investment, convert investment into productivity, convert productivity into jobs, and jobs into rising real incomes for every Nigerian. The opportunities before us are real. Our direction is clear, and our foundation is stronger than it has been in decades. Now is the time to build. Now is the time to produce. Now is the time to invest. Let us work together to build an economy that is not only stable, but prosperous. Not only growing, but genuinely inclusive. Not only resilient, but globally competitive. The future belongs to those who prepare for it today. The government is prepared. And we know that the private sector is ready. Let us build a greater Nigeria together. May God bless you abundantly as you invest in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that wonderful keynote address. I definitely agree that a standing ovation is very, very, very appropriate at this time. Honorable Minister, thank you. You told this room that the reforms are not finished. And then I think you did something that many people in your position rarely do at a podium. You told us which part is the hardest. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for that. So Business Day has spent 25 years insisting that the conversation between government and the private sector be conducted in public. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together one more time for the Honorable Minister of Finance and the Coordinating Minister of the Economy, Mr. Taiwo Oyedele. I would also like to welcome, we are honored to have with us His Excellency, the Executive Governor of Kano State, Engineer Abba Kabir Yusuf, who is ably represented by his Deputy Governor, His Excellency Alhaji Murtala Sule Garo. Let's put our hands together for the Deputy Governor of Kano State. I'd also like to make a correction. Earlier, I mentioned an agency by the name of NHI. Allow me to correct myself and welcome the Director General and Chief Executive Officer of the National Health Insurance Authority, Dr. Kelechi Ohiri. Let's put our hands together for him, please. And before we go, a word for the people who are not on any protocol list. To the readers, to every person who picked up Business Day, who paid for it, who advertised in it, we thank you. And to our subscribers, we thank you as well. So we're actually in luck today because we have the opportunity to ask the Honorable Minister of Finance some questions. So we will take 3 questions from the audience. If you could please kindly put up your hand if you have a question, introduce yourself briefly, tell us who you're representing, and kindly direct your question as succinctly as you can to the Honorable Minister. As he mentioned to us, he does have to get going. So if I could see a couple of hands up, we have a question in the second row. If we could get that mic to her, please. The lady in the second row, second to the left-hand side. Okay. Honorable Minister, would you like to take the questions from the audience or from? Okay, perfect.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the opportunity. My name is Amina Oyagbola. Thank you very much. The speech from the minister was absolutely outstanding and fantastic, as was, the data that was provided by KPMG. I wanted to just bring a little bit of focus, because when we're talking about shared prosperity, a very, very easy pill is the inclusion dividend when you talk shared prosperity. So the whole idea of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'd just like to know a little bit more about how we want to really accelerate that. And then the second aspect is around SMEs. SMEs, I think, present the largest opportunity for growth in our country. And as part of the Chartered Institute of Directors, we looked at some data yesterday or 2 days ago called the Governance Health Check. And it was very, very revealing and very stark that the data point was that 96% of businesses in Nigeria are in the SME sector. However, what is most concerning is that 77% do not scale for a variety of reasons, including governance and so on. So how can we ensure that we support that to drive and propel our economy, to reduce poverty, to create employment, and all the wonderful things that have been spoken about?
Thank you very much. So what we'll do is I will take all the questions at once, and then the Honorable Minister will be able to answer them. So I see a hand right behind us, and then I see a hand, the woman in the white over there, and unfortunately that's all we have time for today. Thank you. So if we could take the microphone, please, to the gentleman in the second row, to the far left. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Minister, and good morning, everyone. My name is Franklin Ngwawo with Lagos Business School. You know, most of the time when I come to this kind of forum, I feel very happy. But when I live here, it's a different reality. So my question to the Honorable Minister is, to what extent are you working with the governors, local government chairmen, to really transform Nigeria? Because most of the time, the federal government presents this issue as if to say they have all the powers and all the resources and all the capacity to achieve that. For us to have $1 trillion economy, we have 36 states and we have 774 local governments. So as you are implementing these reforms at the federal level, to what extent are you coordinating, working with the governors and local government chairmen to achieve proper reform? Thank you.
Thank you very much for that great question. And for the final question, please kindly go to the lady in the whites at the back.
Good morning, everyone. Honorable Minister, good morning. My name is Fumi Odedino, and I'm the founder of Govt NG, a food and manufacturing business in Nigeria. Thank you for your inspiring speech, but I have a question that is specific to we, the SMEs like mine. So what concrete support should we expect from the government over the next 12 years, especially because you spoke about improved access to credit, reducing bureaucracy, and encouraging family businesses to be a global enterprise? So what should we expect in the next 12 months to be able to be confident to invest and create jobs and also contribute to the economic growth of Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you. We do have opportunity for one last question. If we could take the mic, please, to the third row on the right-hand side of the, right there, yes.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Honorable Minister, and all the distinguished CEO participants here today. Honorable Minister, I am Dio Benjamin Zlani, the DG CEO of the Mariam Babangida National Center for Women's Development. My question, you've made a compelling case that shared prosperity requires shared solutions, as you clearly inspire this Nigeria journey towards the $1 trillion economy. Would you be open? Actually, I'm pitching that you co-create, co-author with us at the National Center for Women's Development and other strategic partners through our pipeline of women in the front run of reframing this national network with deliberate measures that accelerate what you are doing, not just as a women's contribution, but as a developmental intervention. So this is Mariam Babangida National Center for Women's Development on behalf of the National Spectrum of Women saying, we're ready to work with you. Will you work with us? And when can I come in with my team to have that discussion? Women, are you with me? Clock it.
We love it. Clock it. I love that. Absolutely. Thank you. So that's 4 questions for the Honorable Minister of Finance and the coordinating economy of Nigeria. So would you like to make your way up to the podium? Or you can do it from wherever you're comfortable. Thank you to everybody that has taken the time to ask questions, and we thank the Honorable Minister for taking the time to answer these questions as well.
Thank you very much, Program Director. The first question from Madam Amina is about inclusion dividends. How do we want to accelerate that? Like I said in my keynote speech, it's something we have to do together. So from the government side, it's our duty to provide the enabling environment, the right policies, and ensure that we debottleneck those things that make it harder for us to make progress faster, bigger, and better. And in fact, we were working on trying to quantify the costs of overregulation and bureaucracy. We haven't finished, but the preliminary numbers are suggesting to us that it's costing us more than we generate from value-added tax, personal income tax, and corporate income tax combined. So just think about it for a moment. If we address overregulation and excessive bureaucracy, it's the equivalent of declaring Nigeria almost a totally tax-free zone. What else can be better than government solving Nigeria's problem without having to spend money doing so? It's what I call a win-win outcome. Or put differently, what is better than providing incentives is removing disincentives. So we have very clear action plans for all of these. Like I said, we'll communicate these and you see them in clear terms very soon. And that's linked to your other question about how do we support SMEs that account for over 90% of businesses. You see that intentionality already in all the reforms. We have exempted small businesses from paying corporate income tax. They don't need to charge VAT. And some will say, but they were not charging before. Right? But that means they were evading. And they were exposed to extortion because if I'm a tax officer, I can come and harass you and make you pay some money. So now, legitimately, you don't have to pay and just do your business. Apart from taxes, we're providing access to affordable credit. Mr. President just a couple of days ago approved some hundreds of billions of naira for the Bank of Industry to provide credit to small businesses. Over some also couple of hundreds of billions of naira to the Bank of Agric, also focusing on small businesses. And the plan we have around the credit economy is also to support not only small businesses, but our local businesses. So it's a long list of different initiatives. Some of it you find under SMIDAN. Some of it include, for example, the approval to register over 250,000 small businesses for free with the Corporate Affairs Commission. And we are speaking to the various groups and platforms because usually small businesses do not have the resources. More often than not, they do not have the knowledge to defend themselves. So we're speaking to the various platforms and groups to serve as a platform for offering help. You would also be aware that the new reforms establish the office of the tax ombud, which means now you have the states with all its powers and resources standing beside you at no cost at all for you to be protected whenever the need arises. My brother Franklin asked the question about to what extent are we working with states and local governments to accelerate growth, stimulate the economy, and deliver shared prosperity? And that's a fantastic question, which I spoke to earlier on. But I would also amplify it. For some reasons, Nigerians focus disproportionately at the center. If your roads are not good within your estate, you call the name of the president. Sanitation, president. And there's really nothing wrong with that, except that we must recognize that there's also the shared responsibility amongst levels of government. The Constitution is very clear as to the duties of the various levels of government. For example, do you know that local governments are required or expected to provide shelter for homeless people? But you know what we do sometimes? We say these people make our cities dirty. We don't like the sight of them on our streets, as if they are not human beings. The Constitution wanted us to protect them, provide for them. But many of us are not even aware it's our duty to do that. So, as we generate more resources, and Mr. President has been able to secure autonomy for local government, we're following that up actively as to how do you translate that into meaningful impact that you can feel, that you can touch, and that you can see at the local level. Just imagine 774 local governments doing their own bit. It will add up. And so is the state level as well. In my 2.5 months as the finance minister, we've had several engagements, including joining them at the Governors Forum. And we kept that engagement going. Just yesterday, at the FAC meeting, this is the Federation Account Allocation Committee, one of the things we discussed yesterday is, why is the focus of this committee almost solely on sharing revenue? We said, okay, maybe sharing revenue is not complicated. It's just numbers, isn't it? The formula is there. And we agreed that we should dedicate time at the FAC meeting to look at strategic economic policy and coordination issues across the country. So, we are open to ideas, we are open to suggestions. Fumi Odedino says, what concrete support should we expect for small businesses over the next 12 months? So I've answered that already. And you can find out more as well. The last question from the DG Miriam Babangida, Women's Center for National Development, is to the effect that she wants to know whether we are open to co-creation with women. And I can say proudly, and with all sense of satisfaction, that I've always been, and we always continue to be, a he for she. If we do not support our women, we leave half of our population behind. You cannot clap with one hand. So, it is not favor. It is not charity. It's a duty that we are committed to. So we'll support our young people, we'll support our women, we'll support our people with disability. About setting up a meeting, please speak to my advisor. They'll try and find time. My calendar is one of the most